let me show you a picture of the type of vehicles we are looking at. So this is what we call a Class A truck. Okay, so when it's fully loaded, it's about 30 ton. So it's a really large animal of our roadways. And let's take a look at a little bit how important these vehicles are for our economy. So once we're looking at the goods transported in the United States, in terms of value, in terms of weight, or in terms of ton miles, then it turns out that heavy-duty vehicles are a key player in this field. We can say that in terms of value and tons, the majority of our goods, those things which these days we are mainly ordering online, are actually delivered by these road giants. So it shows that it has an utmost importance to actually keep this running. On the other hand, once you look at the fuel consumption of these vehicles, and if you compare it with the different classes of trucks, of course, as the number increases, the heavier, the larger the trucks are, then you can see that more than 60% of the fuel consumed by trucks on US roads are actually consumed by Class A trucks. That means that if we are able to target this population of vehicles, then we should be able to make a big impact in terms of the energy economy of the country. So once we started to work with vehicles, we didn't start it with these large ones. Obviously, as I will show later, there are many complications coming from the size. So we actually started with something like this little, okay? So this was actually the first vehicle we built. This was through M-City, which is a test track at the University of Michigan. And it was a fantastic opportunity that we could actually build a vehicle, test it there, and it's a safe environment. So we are very glad that we could use those facilities. So what we did first, we actually started to run some initial experiments with the vehicle. And this is one of them, what I'm showing here. As a matter of fact, what happens here, there are 3 vehicles in front of our automated vehicle. They are all human driven. And as a matter of fact, the vehicle we built is only sensing the one right in front of it. And you can see a sequence of braking happening here. These vehicles are braking harder and harder. And what happened with the little Kia Soul in the end, it was really harsh braking. As a matter of fact, after a day of testing, all the students were complaining because the safety belts were hurting their shoulder because sometimes 60 or 80% of their weight was on the safety belt. The accelerations were so high. So it turns out that once you add connectivity to the system, you can make huge improvements in it. So I'm showing here another experiment. And in this case, the vehicle was a connected automated vehicle, which means it didn't just sense the vehicle right in front of it, but it was actually getting information from those distant vehicles. And what it meant is that it basically started to brake much earlier than in the previous case, and also resulted that braking was actually much more mild. So as a matter of fact, if you rode this vehicle through these experiments, you could drink your cup of coffee and not a droplet would be spilled out because the accelerations were so little, decelerations were so little. It was a very, very smooth ride, okay? So we could see these large benefits on a test track. We wanted to see, can we maintain these benefits once we start to run vehicles on railroad, okay? So then we went to rural Michigan and we found this beautiful piece of road. It's 8 miles long and there's no interruption of driving. Okay, so it's the American dream. Basically, you can just drive. There are roads which are crossing you, but you always have the advantage. Okay, and you can see some of the vehicles. We were running this experiment. And of course, the big fight was always that who's going to drive the Dodge Challenger. And I think in this day, this guy was the lucky one. And he drove that in the whole day. And what we really did was basically we tested these systems, these connected and automated vehicle, and tried to understand, you know, how does it behave once it inserted into a flow of vehicles. So Once we again run it in the AV mode, so basically it was just an automated vehicle, then this is what we see in these experiments. So this is one particular braking event where the front vehicle, this brown vehicle, was stepping on the brake and accelerating back. And as you can see, all the other vehicles were actually following it. And you could see that the braking is getting harsher and harsher and harsher. Actually, the AV was doing better. It was cutting back a little bit on the braking. You can see it didn't increase the braking. It actually maintained a little bit higher speed. So we could see that indeed automation is beneficial. And any of you are driving vehicles with ACC, which is essentially this automation, that'll you will probably experience something similar, that the machine is typically doing better than most of the human drivers. However, what we also added is again was the connectivity, and we've seen something which was very interesting. As a matter of fact, in this case again, the braking became much less harsher. Okay, the vehicle started to step on the brake much earlier. It was able to foresee what is happening, and the speed reduction was much less. And we were very happy with these results, and this is what we really wanted to see. We wanted to see this effect of this vehicle on the traffic flow as a matter of fact. But once we started to crack the data and analyze it, we found something very interesting, which was kind of a hidden jewel we didn't really think about. It was really related to energy. So through these experiments, which of course was a very limited set of experiments, only a couple of 100 miles of driving, and it was on a flat road, and it was on these ideal conditions. But what we have seen that just because of the connectivity, you could save 19% of energy, and that's a huge number. So we were really excited about it, and we said, well, this should apply not just to our little vehicle, but any vehicles of any type of powertrain and any weight and so on. So then we talked to Navistar and show some of these results to them. They also get excited, but said, well, wait a minute, these vehicles are way much bigger. Let's take a look at whether the potential you're saying here is really there. So, well, rather than going back to the road and keep running the experiments again, we actually took the data, because we already had the data collected from those vehicles, and we built a high fidelity simulation platform where essentially we put the truck behind them. And once we started to run it, we were able to produce, what the truck would have done if it was there. Okay, so we have seen something like this. In this case, rather than just showing you one braking event, I actually showing you a set of them. And you can see that the vehicle is trying to always follow the one ahead by stepping on the brake and accelerating back. Again, by adding connectivity, we expected that, again, if we optimize this system and we use the connectivity in an optimal way, then we can actually see some energy benefits. And once I show you the speed fluctuations, you can see that, well, you would expect something like that, because indeed this vehicle was braking much less and accelerating much less, i.e. burning much less fuel in these simulations. It was not as good as the experimental result with those personal vehicle, but we have seen 6 to 12% energy savings in the system. So that's still very, very substantial. And in this case, we ran a large set of simulations using a large set of data. So we are quite confident, at least that in these high fidelity simulations, we are able to achieve these benefits.